Welcome to Tippcast by the Nina Guardian. Hello and welcome to Tippcast. Myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by Nina Guardian sports editor Shane Brophy. Shane, how are you doing?
Good now, good. Good morning, but it was some shock this morning to see the message of Kieran Delaney's passing, a very, very popular referee here in our Tipperary. Just a tragic accident last night out on the roads, and got the deepest sympathies to his family and partner, his two kids, and to Eire GAA. And I suppose that the refereeing fraternity, we know at the moment the difficulty there is with number of referees, and like he's just going to be such an awful loss to Tipperary, to Northern County Tipperary refereing fraternity. I know he's a very, very popular one, and he was the current chairperson of the referees committee in North Tipperary. So, I'm sure. It's just devastating news.
Yeah, couldn't but echo what you're saying there, and that's devastating for a family. And just even speaking to my own father was a referee for many years, and they're all just talking about a referee who let it float. And I know all that seems a little bit kind of empty and pointless to talk about now because sport is a bit irrelevant when something that bad happens. But I mean, even just if you are to talk about something positive, he was always considered an excellent referee.
Oh, look, yeah, and I suppose he was one of those, you knew what you were going to get from him. He didn't like to use the whistle an awful lot. He was prepared to let the players play. But look, if they overstepped the mark, he wasn't afraid to issue the red card. But look, I think he understood the game that, look, if you give players a chance, they'll take it. But look, if they go over the line, he was prepared to dole out the punishment. But that was rare enough. I suppose growing up when I was hurling, I would have always seen Michael Cahill of Kilrowan as being my favourite ref because he allowed the team players to play, and that Kieran Delaney I think was in the same bracket. It was all about the players. And look, he would intervene now if things got out of hand. He wouldn't have been a very fussy referee given it's soft freeze or anything like that. Refereeing a second to his family and I suppose his wide circle of friends, so deepest sympathies to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the same we'd extend to Marty Morrissey and his family after the passing of his mother in a road accident. So, yeah, look, there's always, we talk about GAA and we have the crack with it and all that kind of stuff. There's real issues happening up and down the country all the time. So deepest condolences to both of those families. We will move on to talking a bit of GAA now. And Loughmore's run of 18 weeks in a row, continued. It's 19 this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have it right saying 19 this week. So I mean, obviously they came up a little bit short against Eire Og, and it's probably that sense of chasing the game again. And then when Eire Og hit them with 2 goals of a shot from Aaron Fitzgerald and Mark and Ernie, there was probably no coming back from that. But again, another excellent effort from Loughmore.
Oh, definitely. Look, it's I suppose it's nearly the same playbook every time for the last few weeks. They start off slowly, they fall behind, they come back, and look, they could have snuck it at the end of normal time. I think they had a chance that went wide, or they could have snuck it at normal time. But look, I think overall, bar 4 minutes of the 80, I think Loughmore were either behind or level. So look, you probably think on the balance of play, Eire Og Ennis deserved to win. And look, you always think with these things, and I think there's something in it. I think home advantage in these early rounds in the provinces is huge. Just to get up and running. I think if you play that match in Thurles, I think Loughmore probably win it. And they're probably heading to play St. Finbarrs in a semi-final. But you'd have to think I didn't see much of the game. I was listening to a lot of the commentary, particularly in extra time, and you got a sense that when Eire Og attacked in extra time, they went for the jugular. They attacked at pace, and they sort of knew that if they went hard, if they ran hard, whether they were in support or whether they had support runners or not, they were probably going to pierce that Loughmore defence, which was outstanding all through. Willie Evanston was man of the match in the Nina Guardian report from Owen Brennan, and just shows you how well that Loughmore defence played. But look, that they were pierced then with those 2 goals in extra time. They just got runners in off the shoulder and finished them well. And I say ultimately that was the difference between the sides.
Yeah, is picking themselves up at some point going to become an issue here? Because I mean, if you're having those slow starts all the time, that kind of suggests picking yourself up for the game, and then eventually you get into it. And that'd be the concern. Like, we won't talk the Ballygunner game just yet, but that would be the concern. Like, they must be spent in some way, physically or mentally. I mean, you can't not be when you play so often.
Oh, you probably, you probably. I did think, I say, whenever I could just say if Loughmore progress next weekend, I think that's when it's going to hit home. Is that they're going to probably they'll probably have 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, they'll be training over Christmas for a Munster final if they get to the final, but that momentum is broken, and I think that's when potentially that bit of difficulty could come in. Like, and I think they'll be fine this weekend. Like, I suppose the worry is, like, if they get off to a slow start, Ballygunner could go 8, 9, 10 in front, and there could be no coming back. Like, so, but like, I just get the sense that while just listening from Frankie McGrath's comments, like, while they were disappointed, like, they weren't overly disappointed, because in some ways, I suppose realistically, if they'd won last weekend, how realistic is it that they would win a Munster club football, maybe trying to either beat a St. Finbarrs or an Austin Stacks now, whereas there's probably a more realistic chance that they'd win a Munster club hurling, because they'd see themselves on a par with Ballygunner or a Kilmallock or a Middleton. So, like, would John, if they were hurling last weekend, would John McGrath or John Maher have started from the bench? I seriously doubt it. Like, so I'd like that there was. I know he came on in the second half and he played probably the guts of 50 minutes. So he finished the game. Like, but I would have thought, like, if that was a hurling match last weekend, John Maher would have started.
And, you know, in many ways, if he had to play 80 minutes rather than 50, and he's only coming back from a hamstring, and, you know, a game that probably went 65 to 70 minutes against Turles Sarsfields as well, you know, you could be awfully under pressure. You spoke to you speak to Michael Dempsey, who's involved in the Loughmore backroom team last week, obviously involved with with Brian Cody for many, many years. I think between under 21 and senior, he was there at 17 years. But was he just playing down his role within Loughmore, or what? Did he give any insight?
No, he would. He definitely wouldn't be looking for the plaudits. So I just thought, like, from his point of view, like, he's seen it all within Laois football, like Kilkenny hurling, and just I suppose I'd say he was no more intrigued when he got the call maybe to come in and offer his advice. And I know that he tends to do a lot of the team talks at the water breaks. From what I see, like, he's up in the stand having the bird's eye view. He's not down on the line with Frankie and some of the selectors who are you can get caught up with things on the sideline. Michael is able to sit back in the stand with maybe Maureen Connolly and Eamon Sweeney and just assess things coldly, and he's able to come down and impart some advice. And, like, we've seen it all along, Shane. Like, definitely the water breaks help a lot more, because definitely the second and fourth quarters are really when they seem to find a little bit extra. They definitely take on that advice and maybe tweak things. And look, I just thought from his point of view, he's from what he did in Kilkenny with Brian Cody, like, it was pretty simple game plan for some of that domination time that Kilkenny had. They just worked harder than everyone else, and that's why they won so many All-Irelands. Like, and I think that's what Loughmore's MO is at the moment. While they've good players, but they work bloody damn hard. And, like, I would think if Ballygunner are going to win an All-Ireland, or maybe outside of winning, beating Ballyhale if they get across them, I think if they survive a Loughmore test this weekend, to set them up for the rest of the campaign.
Yeah. So Tom McGrath was on Tip FM the other day, and he was talking about picking the team up after the defeat to Eire Og and going into the Ballygunner game. And he says they have serious pedigree, not just this year, but other years as well. The one thing I would see benefits us is they haven't come across possibly a seasoned club outfit as our lads in a while. The Loughmore-Castleiney lads will be travelling to Dungarvan next Sunday on a bit of a recovery mission of sorts, and also trying to prove some of the pundits wrong, that they were capable of playing outside of Tipperary. There'll be no problem for management to motivate these lads. And I was just looking over the stats, and obviously we know that Loughmore hadn't won the county title since 2013. So back then, that most recent appearance was 27th of October 2013, a 218 to 317 defeat to Napiershig. So a puck of a ball in it.
And I think Loughmore had 2 players sent off that day, and they were winning the whole way. And I think that was Napiershig's first. They went on to win their first one that year. They walloped 6 Mile Bridge in the final. Like, so, like, you think if Loughmore had snuck that, they could have won it. They could have gotten to the final that year.
Well, and that's the thing. But Ballygunner, so that was the last appearance that Loughmore have had in Munster, which is 2013. Ballygunner didn't play there that season because Passage went through instead. But they've played there every single season since. So, it'd be an understatement to say that they've a little bit more experience in there.
Oh, definitely so. But I suppose there's also, I suppose, a bit of pressure on them too, because I suppose they haven't had the level of success that maybe as the likes of Coola have had in the Piershig, like they're all, and Ballyhale, they're always seen in that bracket of, I suppose, having a very, very strong squad. Like, and I suppose, look, they've got to walk the walk now. Like, and look, I know their manager came out after the Ballyea match and he defended maybe the standard of the Waterford Club Championship, but look, they're not being tested down there. And like,
he said there was 7 or 8 clubs that could compete in Munster, which they're not even related to that.
And look, they were 8 weeks off after winning Waterford. They got no test off Ballyhale. Like, how? Like, I'm not saying that they won't beat Loughmore, but if you were telling me with 15 minutes to go, if this match is still in the fire, who knows how to come out of a battle better than Loughmore is going to stand to them. So I think from Ballygunner point of view, they would hope maybe to be in command going into the last quarter, because definitely if this match is still in the melting point in the last 15 minutes, I know who my money will be on at that stage.
Yeah, and I mean, just to look at the recent enough record of Ballygunner in Munster finals, and you can go back to 2009, 5 and all this when they were losing, when they also lost finals. But in 2015, got to the final and beaten by 7 points by the Piershig. Pretty sure that day that they were in a decent spot until about 45 minutes, and I think they sort of gave away a goal, a bit of a calamity, and the Piershig took over. Then again, the Piershig beat them in 2017, 3-15 to 2-10, so that was comfortable enough for a finish. They did beat the Piershig then in 2018, and then obviously lost to Borrisley last time out in late 2019. And with the weather disimproving the whole time, I'm not quite sure what it's like where you are just at the moment. But obviously, there's red and orange warnings in plenty of the counties. This is actually a chance for Ballygunner to shut people up, because
definitely
monsoon weather against Borrisley, Borris won the fight.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think Loughmore and Borrisley are the mirror image of each other. And look, we know Loughmore are not going to change anything. We know what they're going to bring. So Ballygunner know what Loughmore are going to bring. So it's, can they match it? Can they? I suppose I heard Anthony Daly say during the week that like the pitch in Cusick Park against Ballyhale was perfect for them. It was dry and it was hard underfoot. Like, it really suited them down to the ground. You think after all the rain this week that like Field it's going to be soft, and like Loughmore play it anyway, like so. And you think Ballygunner are warm favourites, but like this is probably the game where they could come a cropper. Like I say, it's that test. Like, and look, there is pressure building on them, because they're seen as, and I'm sure there is within themselves, because like you're looking 15-20 miles over the Kilkenny border and they're seeing Ballyhale hoovering them up, and they think they must play Ballyhale a nice bit maybe in challenge matches that we don't hear about, because they keep hearing that they're actually at the same level as Ballyhale, but we haven't seen them enough playing each other at the top level, like so. And look, you could go from Stephen O'Keefe, you have the Mahoney brothers, Desi Hutchinson, Peter Hogan, like they're littered with quality. Barry Coughlin,
Kenny, county players everywhere.
Like, is there a smack of Kilcoo off them, and maybe you see the Mahoneys and Stephen O'Keefe not committing again, that maybe some of the players are happy with the what they're doing at club level, and they're really they're going all in. Some of the players' focus is on winning a Club All Ireland, and they'll be happy with that. Maybe instead of playing with Waterford, I know I just get there's an element of Kilcoo off them there, but
we had that in Coola a little bit too. A couple of lads weren't playing. Like, obviously, some of them had life stuff, which meant that they couldn't commit to the county in the amount of time. But like, I got that sense off one or two that it was all about the club, really. Yeah. And I suppose with the Dublin senior hurlers during those couple of years, it's not like they were going to win in All Ireland. So in some ways, they're like, it makes sense to go all in. And because we had Matty Kenny, like some of the players who had played county said, well, this is very similar in terms of preparation levels to an inter-county. And I've spoken to Pádraig Mahoney before at some media press event, and he was talking about the level of detail they go into with the club. And he's like, this is kind of like county. And I think that They've Shawnee O'Donnell, who's the stats man, the analytics man for Limerick, involved with them too. So you can be sure if any team at club level is close to inter-county preparation, it is Ballygunner.
Isn't it actually remarkable how many of the strong club teams, maybe apart from Ballyhale, have contributed? Maybe I wouldn't say very little, but not as big a chunk to the inter-county team. I'd be looking at maybe like the likes of Corofin, who are so strong in club football, yet they found it very, very hard to get to fit in then to a Galway senior team playing a different style of football. I think you look at the Piershig, who were dominating for a long time, maybe outside of Mike Casey, Peter Casey, maybe Will O'Donoghue. Like I suppose maybe you have the likes of Kilmallock and Doon. Like the Limerick Club Championship is strong. You're able to pull from different clubs. Like, but I always thought, and look at Kilcoo out there as well. Like very few in with the down setup. Is that if you have a strong club setup, lads, as you say, lads are not as inclined maybe to go seeking more success with the county.
And then part of it too, of course, is that now not anymore, but in previous years, up until a couple of years ago, if you had a strong club like na Piershig, and I remember chatting to one or two of those about this, and other clubs too, you're playing probably until March, which meant that you missed most of the league. So, for example, John Kiley there, the year that Will O'Donoghue didn't get into the team midfield in 2018, he was playing up until March 24th because our All-Ireland clubs went to a replay. League is played, he's on the bench. Darragh O'Donovan and Cian Lynch are flying midfield, so he's no opportunity to get in. So that was probably one of the older reasons for that.
Because you look at the likes of David Dempsey there, and you look at Adrian Breen, you think, God, how are these lads not playing for Limerick, considering how destructive they are for the Piershig?
Yeah. Oh, they're brilliant players. Liam Manson says, if it comes down to a dogfight, Loughmore have the steel to win it. Weather will have a huge bearing. Best of luck, Loughmore. Great show as always. Please keep the comments coming in. We think we know a fair bit, but we don't know it all. So let us know your thoughts and what you think will decide the game. Shane, I'm just looking through the Waterford Championship this year and the results and the challenges that have been put up to Ballygunner. So during the group stages, they battered Ballyduff upper 131 to 110. They had a good game against Abbeyside 122 to 116. Quarter final, they saw 4 Mile Water, which would be Jamie Barnes' club, by 8 points. Now, they had their closest game against Mount Zion in the semi-finals. That was on the 25th of September, 21 points to 116. Ozzie Gleeson and co playing there. Really tight game. And then absolutely bet the living snot out of Rowan Moore, 227 to 13. It was 15, I think it was 58 or 58 days between the county final and the Ballyea game. And they would have played the likes of Rapparee Starlights, which I'd heard, and hammered them. Now, probably hard to get challenge matches in a lot of other cases because teams are playing their county championship. So if you're saying it's 58 days without a competitive game, and the game before that was an uncompetitive county final, and then you had to go back another few weeks before that till you actually really did have a strong game.
Yeah.
Contrast that with what Loughmore have done. Off the top of my head, it was Killarwan in the quarterfinal. Now, I suppose they had that game controlled from the get-go. They had to come back from 6 points down against Bursley. They had to play two brilliant games against Turton Sarsfields. Well, sorry, two exciting games. 3/4 of the second, the replay was pretty drab stuff. And then, obviously, the football in on top of it. So if you're going to talk about who's more road tested here, and who's kind of gone through or been in the trenches, it's Loughmore all day.
Oh, definitely. Like, you have to think that's on their side, and I think I would have thought that this week more than any, I think that the Loughmore management will be focused on making sure they get off to a positive start, but not to get Ballygunner get too far ahead. And they have forwards that would skin you. But I think that the Dungarvan pitch will suit them. I think it's just right beside the estuary there, so it probably is a bit heavier than that, so the ball probably won't be moving as quick. Plus, you'd like to think that Loughmore are probably going to throw about 5 or 6 fresh guys in next weekend, the likes of Tommy Marr, Kieran Connolly, who didn't play last week, Kieran McGrath. They do have guys that didn't play, 5 or 6 that didn't play last week. It won't be completely tired legs coming in. And look, they're so used to rest and recovery now at this stage in terms of getting themselves right. And I think I do think this game would have been mattered more in terms of Munster maybe than last weekend, and because I think, as I said at the start, I think there's a more realistic avenue of winning a Munster club in hurling than there was in football. So look, there'll be some fan, and I don't think Loughmore will go down the man marking route. Like, they'll set up their team like if Desi Hutchinson plays at left corner forward, Willie Evison will pick him up. He's in right corner. Like, it'll be.
Do you think he has the stuff for him? Because Desi Hutchinson's very elusive, very fast.
Oh yeah, well, the thing is that we've had Willie Evison in our team of the year. I think they'll trust him. I don't think they'll mistrust anybody at the moment and say you can't do a job. I think they'll start off, and look, if they have to change things up, they will. I think that's been the way they've done things all along. Like, because like and there is something in that. Like, if you put Brian McGrath from a start, for instance, and he is in trouble, like, generally Brian is your go-to guy for if you're making a switch. So like, if you start him on a guy and he's in dirty difficulty, you're putting maybe an inferior, maybe a player and defender, maybe a difficulty to try and slow him down. Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if Loughmore maybe play a little more defensive. They maybe even withdraw their half forward lines a little. But like, as we know, a lot of the way Mount Sion Ballygunner like to play is ping the ball around guys on the move. So look, if they have if you can clog up that area from where maybe they can't pick out passes and get guys into space. And look, we saw a lot of what Boris Lee did a couple of years ago when those conditions sort of negated it. Maybe it was, like, how would you say, in the trenches there, and you had to win your own battle. And I think I'd give Loughmore every chance in this one.
One thing that Loughmore can't do is allow Philip Mahoney to lord the game. So Ballygunner dropped everyone back. They ended up losing 320 to 2-6. You have to point out that Tony Kelly didn't play. And put it this way: if John McGrath couldn't play for Loughmore, would we give Loughmore any chance at all? We wouldn't, realistically. So you have to point that out. But Ballygunner didn't score for 50 minutes, and one of the big things is dropping lads back is fine, but you need to be able to get up and down. And you can't allow Philip Mahoney to lord the game, because he'll just kind of switch the ball around. He'll pass it over to Shane O'Sullivan, another lad who played for years for Waterford. Then you have Pádraig Mahoney coming short. Paddy Levy, he loves that one-handed brick flick thing. He'll keep the ball moving. Conor Sheehan's good at midfield. And then you have Ian Kenny and Barry Coughlin, who are both fast and strong in the full-back line behind him. Like, Billy O'Keefe is stepping up as another dangerous forward. I think, was it Kevin O'Mahony or Mikey Mahoney?
Mikey Mahoney, yeah.
Yeah, like, they're getting on. The one thing I would say is Pádraig Mahoney didn't score from play until near the very end. In a game where you're scoring 320, Peter Hogan, who had a brilliant season for Waterford, didn't score from play. Desi Hutchinson didn't score from play. So, but then, of course, they scored 320 anyway, so there is the danger. So if you're Loughmore, how are you trying to expose this Ballygunner backline? Ballygunner have the more experienced goalkeeper too, a lad who played inter-county for 8 or 9 years, maybe even 10. Like, what are you trying to do to expose this team? Who do you want to get on the ball more than anyone?
Well, sure. Like, I would think there's a big game coming in Noel McGrath soon. I think if Noel, if they can get Noel prominent on the ball, I think it'll be so important. Because like Noel and John, the guys who concede the pass, and Liam as well, like, was like, they just don't panic in possession. Like, they'll use it well. And I guess there's something Tom McGrath said earlier on in the week. I think it was the same interview, that even the likes of Conor McGrath and Kieran McCormack, like, he said it's probably the best squad Loughmore have ever had. Like, and you would probably seen it in some clubs where if the best player got the ball and he saw maybe a weaker player and he's outside, he wouldn't give him the pass because he didn't trust him to do the right thing. He said, Tom was saying, there's none of that anymore. Like, everyone trusted. Like, they trust. We saw the point Kieran McCormack got off the bench against Thurles. Like, they trust the guys coming, like the Tommy Mars, like the Conor McGraths, like they trust them. And like Ed Connolly as well, probably due a big game too. That they'll step up and contribute something when they're needed most. So like if they won a Munster club in 07, I think they were lucky in 13. But like, if he says this is the best group of Loughmore players they've ever had going into their 4th Munster hurling campaign, I really think they're going to go all in on this one. Like, and everybody, John McGrath, John Mars, he's in 70% fit, he's going to start. But I think there's just a massive opportunity. And look, if you win this, you get a couple of weeks off to rest and recover for Munster final. I think is Munster on Ulster side of the draw. Look, I'm not.
Yeah,
down like the Ulster.
yeah.
Like I know. Look, you couldn't. You're not.
Well,
you
Ulster
have
teams
done. You have done Ryan. You can't write them off. And
but Ulster teams have won one game since Loughgiel last won the All Ireland. So that'll tell you they've drawn games and pushed Ballyhale close.
Yeah. So there's it's no more. It's open for all 4 Munster clubs. They'll probably see an avenue to get to a Munster final, the same as Kilmallock and Middleton and the other semi on Sunday as well.
Yeah, well, I've mentioned that Philip Mahoney I would see as being the key man, and he might end up just simply trying to be a sweeper. But I wonder, would Frankie McGrath think, do you know what, we might man-mark him? Right? Liam Tracy's brilliant quarter-final against Killarwan hasn't really happened to him for him quite as much since. I know he set up the equaliser for Liam McGrath in the drawn county final, but I wonder, could he nearly man-mark? Obviously try and get on the ball when you can. But your job is to make sure that Philip Mahoney isn't in this game, or maybe give that job to somebody else. Because I think Loughmore, if they can fill the middle area, their midfield, Kieran Connolly and Tomas McGrath, I think can outshine Conor Sheehan and Paddy Levy. Could be proven wrong on that. Then you're asking yourself, what would the man-marking jobs be? Would you look at Brian McGrath and say, maybe we could put him on Pádraig Mahoney and say, do you know what, drive him the other way, the same way Brendan Maher did in the Munster final a couple of years ago. And then the final part of all of this is, do you copy the puck-out strategy that Burris Ali had, which was put the ball straight on top of the sweeper and everyone converge and make sure that if Ballygunner win it, they're absolutely surrounded.
Yeah, look, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they go back through that Burris Ali video from a couple of years ago and just to pick up a couple of things. And definitely this. I think if Ballygunner score 320 like they did against Ballina, it's hard to see Loughmore matching that. I think Loughmore have got to. They've probably for firepower. I think Ballygunner probably have have more in their artillery. But I think if Loughmore can keep this maybe 216, 217 is a winning score, I think that's very, very manageable to them. I think they probably need to get a couple of goals. You mentioned Liam Tracy being on Mahoney. I wouldn't be afraid maybe with Evan Sweeney on him, because Evan is he's so sharp. Like he could do a job like that, but Evan would also, if he got a ball, he could run at him and take him on and maybe draw a foul or slip the pass to somebody off the shoulder. So look, I'm sure, look, as we mentioned Mick Dempsey there, I'm sure they'll be going back through things, and I'm sure there'll be little things he would have picked up from maybe being involved with Kilkenny, playing Waterford teams too, who would have had a lot of Ballygunner influence there as well. I think
Tomas McGrath will have to sit deep, because the idea that Ballygunner will have, they love throwing the ball around and taking the extra pass and playing a beauty in for Desi Hutchinson. And obviously John McGrath will be instructed to kind of sit and mind the D as much as possible. It'll mean that the ball going in, there'll have to be pressure on the ball going in. Because if, there's some good ball players in that Ballygunner team. If they can stand up and try and strike the ball 50, 60 yards into Desi Hutchinson, the sweeper just can't get there. It's just not realistic. The weather could change all of that, of course, but just if it's any sort of a good day, and also look, Noel McGrath, we didn't pick him in our county team of the year, our club team of the year in Tipperary, but he has been contributing. We certainly never said that. He's been good, but we need to see a vintage Noel McGrath performance here. If Loughmore are going to get over the line, we need to see All-Ireland final 2019 on the ball 32 times, I think.
Yeah, that's what Brendan Maher did in 2019, and Dan McCormick. These are the type of games where your star lads really have to come to the fore. And look, we expect Ballygunner star lads to come to the fore, and we need Loughmore need the John Mars and the McGraths. This is where I suppose you're playing the cream of the rest of the country at the moment, so you're looking for that little bit more. And as you said, if Tomas McGrath sat a little deep, you could put Noel into the middle of the field, and but Loughmore don't play a 3-man full forward line, so you think one of them, maybe Ed Connolly, is going to come out, and they might leave Kieran McGrath and John McGrath inside, or John is going to probably float between centre forward and full forward, or centre and wing forward anyway, and same with Liam McGrath as well. So look, I don't foresee Loughmore changing their game plan a whole lot from the start. I'm sure they'll probably adapt as the match goes on. If if things are getting away from them. Because it's just the one thing about them, they just don't panic if they're under pressure. Like so.
Yeah. Well, look, Ballygunner are an excellent team, and I'd say many people would see them outside of Ballyhale as favourites for the All Ireland. So if Loughmore were to come up short, it would be no disgrace at all. But for a finish, if you were to make a prediction, which way would you lean?
I think the closer to it, I'm giving Loughmore a great chance. But like, will the extra time have sapped a bit too much out of them the last day? I'm not gonna look. I definitely not backing against them. But look, Ballygunner are favourites for a reason. They're fresh and it's in a pitch that they're more familiar with than most of the Loughmore lads. So look, you think Ballygunner have all the aces at the moment, but I think it'll be a cracking game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Ballygunner just about might nudge this one, but there's a huge amount of me that's saying, well, don't forget about Loughmore, the fact that they've show great heart, the fact that they always come back in games.
Yeah,
that John McGrath is having a club season to beat all club seasons.
Yeah,
that John Maher's playing so well that Brian McGrath's hand is probably getting stronger by the day. So they have a lot going right too, but you can't ignore the experience that Ballygunner have at this stage, the home advantage, everything there. So it should be a cracker anyway, and I can't wait to see that game. We're joined now by Thomas Conway. Thomas, how are you doing?
Not too bad at all, Shane. Shanes.
Any thoughts as we're finishing up on Ballygunner against Loughmore? How you see this going?
Well, it'll be a very interesting one. I mean, Ballygunner, it's been Ballygunner's All-Ireland to lose for the last couple of years. I know you've had Ballyhale there. And, you see, I'm cautious to underestimate Loughmore, given what they've done this season. And I think most people would share that feeling. Like instinctively, I would probably say, Ballygunner, I kind of feel this is their year, or this will have to be their year, because how many Waterford County Championships can you win, and still retain that hunger? But look, Loughmore, not to be underestimated, it'll definitely be an intriguing one.
So we wanted to talk to you about a couple of the games coming this weekend. First off, we want to talk about Drom and Inch against Sarsfields in the All-Ireland Camogie semi-final. It's going to be on in Edenderry.
Go on.
Can you talk to us about the form? Like, obviously, Drom and Inch have claimed county and provincial titles at this stage. Can you talk to us about their journey up to now?
Yeah, they started off at maybe a moderate pace, and they're a team which has evolved throughout the course of the season. Now they've put 3 titles in a row together when they beat Clowney a couple of weeks ago. But it hasn't been plain sailing this year. I think they've kind of gradually evolved, and they've come through a number of really kind of harsh, gritty battles. None more so than in the final against Clowney, and then subsequently the weekend before last against Kilnamona in the delayed 2020 final. And just for people, they're playing Sarsfields now. This is the 2020 championship. So obviously it was delayed from last year. Sarsfields are reigning All-Ireland champions. I was speaking to a guy from Galway last week, Darren Kelly, and he gave me a kind of a quick rundown on them. And they've really blossomed in recent years. Like they as well as Drom and Inch, they put a 3 in a row together in Galway. But they're kind of, behemoths at this stage. They're the best in the club game. It'll be a massive test for Drom and Inch. You wonder, do they have the experience? Do they have the endurance to grind it out? Because it'll take a monumental performance, and as that man Darren Kelly highlighted, a lot of it I think will come down to individual matchups, particularly across Drom's half back line. Niamh Tracy, can you get her on the ball and get it forward as much as possible? Aoife McGrath as well, because they're going to have to negotiate a really, really strong, really powerful Sarsfield forward line. Plenty of Galway seniors on that team, so that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, Shane, so if you're to reflect on last year's All-Ireland final, Sarsfields beat Schlockneil. Schlockneil were chasing a remarkable 4 in a row, to be fair to them, and it was an injury time goal from Siobhan McGrath that turned things around and gave Sarsfields that All-Ireland win. So you're up against a team that's been there and done it.
That's it, yeah, and I suppose no more than the Sarsfields had their own disappointments, I suppose. before they finally got over the line. I'm sure that there was no greater disappointment for them that COVID prevented them maybe from building on that momentum and maybe going back to back last year. This was potentially they are going back to back still, but I suppose it is a funny one as like you think of. Just say if Drom falls short this weekend, they probably only have a couple of weeks to maybe. They could probably put that maybe experience if they do fall short into action maybe in January or February when they play the 2021 Munster and All Ireland, and they could end up playing Sarsfields again in a couple of weeks' time for the 2021 championship. So, and that experience potentially for next Sunday could be put to use very quickly. Like so, look, in some ways they're mirror image of each other. Like there's a huge backbone of both the Galway and Tipperary senior Camogie teams in action at the weekend, and look, we've seen at the moment Galway just have that edge over Tip at the moment, and as Thomas says, maybe that bit of experience will probably count in favour of Sarsfields, but look, no more than the Loughmore boys, you just won't write off Drom at the moment with all the McGraths and the Tracys and the Eversons. They just don't know how to lose, and look, they'll be going to Edenderry on Saturday at 12 o'clock throw-in, fully believing that they're as good, if not better, than Sarsfields. And look, if they do, there's a prize of getting to Croke Park in an All-Ireland final, which would be massive for them and massive for Tip Camogie. And I suppose the disappointing aspect of it is, like, is there not a county ground that could have held this match? Like, when you're fine, like you rarely hear of inter-county matches being played in Edenderry, so they must have had great difficulty finding a venue for what is the senior All-Ireland club semi-final. Like, you think that maybe it's Tullamore, Ennis, or somewhere like that, or even Burr, which would be you're dragging both sets of supporters well out of the way.
Well,
like,
Shane, put it this way: like the Leinster club football semi-finals are going to be played at Croke
Park.
Park.
Yeah. That's it. Like, this is an All-Ireland Senior Club Camogie semi-final. You couldn't tell me that O'Connor Park and Tullamore wasn't available, or Portlaoise. Like, just like something like it's 2 weeks out from Christmas. You want somewhere where people can sit in the stand comfortably. I've never been to the pitch in Edenderry. I don't actually know if there is. I presume there is a stand up there. You'd need some bit of shelter, but it's just a disappointing thing that maybe that probably needs to be a bit more of a link up there where you have. When you're getting to games like this, that maybe if there is a club game in Offaly or Clare going at the moment, that maybe that could be moved to a regional location to allow maybe. And you can't tell me that there's not going to be maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people, core supporters of Drom and Sarsfields. Like, you need somewhere big enough to cope with the supporters this weekend too. It's huge for both clubs.
Yeah, I just googled the ground there, and it looks that like there's one small stand. It looks pretty small now. It's not exactly going from 21 to 21, but there is something which is it is something.
Like logistically, I would have thought somewhere like Burr would have been ideal. Like, it's a good big stand there. You have terracing on 3 other sides of the ground. It's sure Sarsfields is just outside Athenry. You could drive from Athenry, outside Loughrea. Sorry. You can drive from that Loughrea to Burr in 40 minutes. The same from Drom. Like, I would have thought, or even if Nina was open, like, you could have said, I know Drom don't play an awful lot of Camogie matches in Nina for handiness sake. You maybe could have said, look, would Sarsfields come down to Nina into Tipperary and play? But look, it is where it is at the moment. I just think maybe there could be, maybe it's an aspect of maybe the cooperation between the GAA and Camogie that could be improved going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, it was also reflected. I mean, the Munster final against Downey Kilmore, that was played down in Killeedy. Now, lovely little club and a nice compact ground. But again, you kind of question, would maybe the Gaelic grounds have been available? It is a Munster final, after all.
Kilmallock, because there has 2 stands on both sides, especially this time of the year where you need a bit of cover, like, so.
Yeah, and
supporters out, like, so.
You need people distance as well, because of the COVID risk. So, I mean, yeah, you kind of have to, I'm not sure, is it a logistical issue? Is it a lack of communication? But you would have to be kind of critical of kind of these decisions, where they're coming from.
Yeah, I've interviewed a few of the McGrath sisters, I'm pretty sure, over the years about their kind of run to get into that stage where they finally won the All-Ireland club title. There's 4 of them on it as far as I know, and they're all daughters of the Hopper McGrath. Who Tip would have come up with a nice bit.
Who's managing the team as well?
Yeah. So Thomas, who are we looking to on the Drom and Inch team that you think is in the sort of form that can hopefully drive the team past Sarsfields?
Yeah, it's, you see, I mean, Drom have multiple, they have plenty of talent up front. The likes of Joanne Ryan has the experience and, the composure. She demonstrated that the last day. Emer McGrath as well, exceptionally accurate from frees and reliable. But I kind of think I go back to the Drom half backline every time. Niamh Tracy, Aoife McGrath, and possibly Mairead Everston rather, in the center, and how they choose to play that, because I think they'll almost, like, the threat posed by the Sarsfield forward line is so strong and dangerous. Particularly, the McGrath sisters that we mentioned, that they're going to have to negate them in some way. So is that gonna stymie the half back line? Because I mean, so much of Drom's attack is platformed, or is created by Niamh Tracy bursting up the field and Aoife McGrath delivering. They don't tend to play an awful lot of long ball. They play kind of a short stick passing game more often than not. So I'm not sure. Niamh Long is there in midfield. Do you have to drop a body back? I think they're nearly going to have to do that, because they're going to have to be able to find a way to kind of unleash Tracy and McGrath and enable them to get forward. Because that's then Drom's movement, the movement in the Drom forward line is class. They really know each other well and work off each other. But again, I would just have a fear that Sarsfields will just pile forward onto them, and they experience a bit of a crisis back there. It's very hard to play the game on your terms when you're trying to deal with such a strong attacking threat. Players like Sarah Spellman there as well. She's a Galway senior, played in the All-Ireland final. So, I mean, she's another obvious threat. So they're going to have to find a way to negate that. And I would say kind of dropping an extra player back is probably the way to do that.
Yeah, Shane, no Tipperary All-Ireland Camogie club winner since 2009 in Cashel, as far as I remember correctly. Is there much chance of Drom ending that barren run?
I think they're coming. Like Burge Tahara came close a couple of times. They lost a semi-final to Schlockneil, and they lost the semi-final to Sarsfields. I think it was the year maybe Sarsfields made the breakthrough. Like, so it just shows that Tipper, the clubs are not far off it. Like, and definitely Drom and Inch are our strongest representatives. A lot of experience there. And if there's live commentary in this game, I'd hate to be just between the McGraths all over the field on both teams. Like, it's going to be such a strange one. You could be listening to it on the radio, wondering what end are they playing into. There'll be the McGrath here and the McGrath there. But I could just no more than Loughmore. Like, you wouldn't write them off, but definitely they're underdogs. Drom. Like, but if they can get over this one, I think this would be the big test. Like, you have, I don't know whether have Schlockneil maybe gone over the hill maybe in terms of their dominance. That maybe Sarsfields are the power in Camogie, and if you can get past them, there's a great chance of winning a final in the new year.
Absolutely. So best of luck to Drom and Inch against Sarsfields at Edenderry. Thomas, what about Ballina in the Munster Junior A Football Championship? Beat Mount Collins the other day and beat him well, 3-10 to 3 points.
Yeah, I think we're looking at probably a junior All-Ireland this year, intermediate next year, and 2023 Ballina will be All-Ireland Senior Club Champions.
Under 19A county champions in Tip too. Like, so it's been a great year for football in the club.
Yeah, but you're not getting carried away, to be fair, Thomas.
No, we might just feel the Tip team based on Ballina players, I think, would be just a great thing to do now. No, they were very impressive, but it has to be said, Mount Collins were quite weak. And that's no insult to them. They didn't actually win the Limerick County Championship. I think they were selected. They were semi-finalists. And again, they could play football. They were intelligent footballers, but just the sheer athleticism and physicality of Ballina really had them worn down. I mean, Ballina were 2-6, so I think a point up by the first water break. So the game was effectively, the game was a foregone conclusion from then on. A number of kind of impressive performances from the Ballina perspective. Yeah, obviously the likes of Stephen O'Brien, Michael Breen was exceptional. Willie Connors, again, very solid. But to pick out a few, George Keeley in midfield, himself and O'Brien have a really formidable partnership there. Both really tall men But George is, it's almost kind of if you think back to a Darren Fletcher role, he does he's an unsung hero as Kevin Byrne, the Ballina manager, described him. Does a lot of work in terms of connecting the play. And then Tom Lee in centre back, whom I was really impressed with, because he kind of sat back in the pocket, and even just his presence and his management of the players around him, it would have been very tempting to get forward. And get
he's a former Limerick County midfielder, you have Lee, you have Stephen O'Brien, you have Mikey Breen, Willie Connors has played county football before. Like, there's a strong spine, and then you have Matthew Power, Owen Power. Like, there's some quality footballers there. Like, and you say this could be a year like they'll be fancy to beat Mount Sion in the semi-final. Like, I'd be interested to see if they do get to a Munster final, how they would match up against the Cork or the Kerry champions. Just to see where they stand in that pecking order.
And the Cork team is Bo Review, and the Kerry team is, and I apologise for the pronunciation, Gniamh Gwilla, or I get that right. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, you're thinking they'll pose a major threat, but Mount Sion, Mount Sion will be tough to negotiate as well. Like, they do have, I mean, Austin Gleeson is playing for them, obviously. They'll be fit and physical, which is probably more than can be said for Mount Collins. And Mount Collins weren't unfit. It's just they couldn't match Ballina's kind of pace in that. So they'll have the benefit of kind of a couple of players on county panels, Mount Sion. And, and of course, they won't fear Ballina by any means. They'll have that kind of natural confidence. So, I mean, like, for all my, building up Ballina, they have to be wary of this threat. They're excellent footballers. But, I mean, you take each hurdle as it comes. And I think Mount Sion, I think it's on the Tipperary venue. So where that is,
probably Nina. It's
probably Nina, which will suit them. But then if they get over that, sky's the limit, really. But it'll be interesting to see how this one goes, certainly.
All I'm hearing here is Club All Ireland, Thomas.
Well, I actually, and I haven't checked, prematurely checked how the other championships are going. I've only been looking at Munster. But I mean, it's, there's an opportunity there. There's a huge, because Ballina has, I mean, historically down the years, we've been quite good at football, better than we would have been at hurling. And that's been kind of a trend at underage, and yet it hasn't been fulfilled, or it hasn't been carried forward to adults. And that has kind of been a sore on the part of many. And I'm thrilled to see, and I'll be friends with a lot of these guys. So I'm thrilled to see them kind of getting the opportunity now. It is worth noting as well, you have a lot of good footballers in Ballina who mightn't necessarily be as good at hurling, So it has given them an opportunity, and there's a massive panel. I have the program here, like there's 41 players listed on that panel. So I mean, that speaks to
it just shows you that there's been an effort. I'd say Kevin Byrne and his selectors really seem to have got this group together. It's like with a lot of maybe junior football clubs, and maybe particularly the ones that are mainly focused on hurling, that we're out of the hurling, we'll and if we get on a run with football, we go together. But it seems to be that there was a concerted effort in Ballina even before they were knocked out of the hurling, that we were going to give this a good go.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin has been brilliant himself, and Martin Neary, Tom Meskel, and I should mention David Toy as well, is running on first aid. They've really put an effort in, and I think it has been reciprocated by the players. There's obviously a desire there. And probably they were, disappointed with the hurling campaign this year, because they had a relatively good side and it just didn't come to fruition for them. So that all builds into the hunger and the incentive. It's December, the week before Christmas, essentially, December 18th, 19th, that weekend that this game is on. So it should be intriguing, but they have every chance. If they put in a performance, they're well capable of landing a Munster final spot.
They're going to be the new Loughmore, Shane. New Jewel Club.
Thanks very much for joining us, Thomas. I'm sure we'll be chatting again soon. And best
cheers, Thomas.
Pleasure, guys. Cheers.
Okay, so that's Thomas Conway there. Let's jump on to the Miller Shield. So round 3 happened at the weekend. You were at one of the games. South Tip were playing West Tip, if I'm correct, and North against Mid. So which game did you see? And you were saying to me just before we came on air, Tip are going back training tonight. Anyone particularly standing out at the moment?
Yeah, just as interesting as I put just a message out to Colin Bonner to see what sort of a panel had they go into training tonight. But it seems that it seems to me that from what he said, I'm not going to give it everything, but it surprised him the amount of players that have come to their attention, I think, through the Miller Shield, and I think they're going to bring in a good few of them over the next couple of weeks into training, and they'll probably whittle it down then maybe to around 35, 36 before the National League starts, which is, I suppose, that's the encouraging thing, that they got more out of the Miller Shield that maybe they thought they were going to get. And going back to last weekend, and I suppose based on what the game I saw, and I didn't see the South against the West, and I think it has to be said that while the North won comfortably, the Mid have been badly impacted by the fact they couldn't pick any Sarsfields, no Loughmore, no Drom and Inch. They had one Mine Temple Toohey last weekend from Tom Meade. Didn't get a chance to see Gerard O'Connor. He was injured. Conor Bowe wasn't there. I'm not sure whether Conor is part of their hurlers' plans, or maybe he's going to go back in with the footballers yet again. So we don't know on that score. But look, the North did what they had to do. They had a stronger team out. They had Craig Morgan out there. They had Barry Hogan in goals. They had James Quigley again at wing back. I just thought of the guys we hadn't seen in with Tip before. I thought Declan McGrath at wing back was again very, very good. I think he's done everything he could maybe to impress. But he's probably definitely has to be one.
What about the Toomey Vara midfield there? I see Robbie Quirk and Jack Delaney. There's not too much involvement of Toom there on the Tip team last year or two.
And look, Jack Delaney picked off 6 points in play from the middle of the field. Jack's a fine player. I just thought he didn't have his best year maybe for Toomey Vara. And I suppose, I think that would be a frustration for him and also for Toomey Vara, is that he has the ability to pick off 3 or 4 points and play a game. It just doesn't happen for him regularly enough. But he's definitely a player with ability. And I think off the bench, you have said the bench was really impactful. You had Billy Seymour getting 2 points. You had Alan Tynan getting 3. So I think next year is a big one for Alan Tynan of Roscrea. I think he's ready to make an impact, and he has an engine and he can score too. So I'd love to see him getting a decent run in the National League next year. And definitely, I think one that surprised me has been David Gleeson. I always thought, while he was a fine inside forward for the under-21s in 2018, I always thought maybe he's just a bit small maybe for inter-county level. But look, I definitely think he comes on and he scores 1-2. He scored 2-4 from playing the previous. That's 3-6 from playing 3 matches in winter conditions. That's not to be sniffed at. And he has a bit of pace about him. And he plays rugby in the winter with Nina Ormond under wing, so he's strong. He's physically very, very powerful. And he reminds me a lot of a guy you'll be familiar with up in Dublin, Dotsy O'Callaghan. Just that sort of he's elusive. And if he gets the ball, he's very good. He's very good to plant the foot in the ground and turn very quick, and he's gone. And he's very accurate. So I think him and Declan McGrath, from an North point of view, I apologise to maybe people from other divisions that I haven't seen, that from an North point of view, Declan McGrath and I think David Gleeson were definitely 2 of the players. Derek Carey, who had a very, very good county final for Temple Derry, he did well too. So that while they're starting collective training tonight, I know they'll be down an awful lot of bodies, the Loughmore guys, the Drom and Inch lads, and the likes of the Ballina football contingent too. So that they will only have maybe the guts of 30, 32 in there. So that they're not in a position maybe to nail down their panel at the moment. It just shows you that it hasn't been they won't have it easy putting the panel together based on what they've got from the Miller Shield so far.
Yeah, and there'll obviously be a few injuries in there too. I wonder about, it's 2012, we're talking over 9 years ago since Mark McCarthy scored that All-Ireland final goal. When I was watching him this year, and I'm trying to remember last year, but he'd have his knee heavily bandaged up a lot. how did he go? And then Thomas Cleary is someone who really stepped up during the club championship again this year. Big man, well able to score.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Mark definitely had his knee bandaged again, and I'm not sure whether he's had a couple of goals. I didn't think he did enough. Maybe the last day, Thomas Cleary, while he's had a great year with Killerwan, I'm not sure when it comes to the harder ground in May, June, and July whether I would class him maybe in the Dennis Maher sort of a mould, whether maybe the autumn winter conditions play into his level. But look, I think in terms of if Thomas Cleary can build on playing with North Tip and feeling, God, I deserve to be in this company. Could he not be maybe the go-to forward at Killerwan or looking for next year, that he will become maybe the missing? I would say he's been there for Killerwan, but they're definitely looking for a marquee forward to take games by the scruff of the neck going forward. Like Cian O'Kelly picked off a lovely goal. I think in terms of a development player, I think Cian O'Kelly maybe in terms of Tip going forwards, maybe you bring him in and maybe it could be 2, 3, 4 years time before you see the best of him. Maybe a lot like Gerard Hegarty is from Tip. We think of Gerard Hegarty the last 2 or 3 years for Limerick. It took him 3, 4 years to get to that level, even after being a 20, 21-year-old. So definitely, I think he's a long-term prospect. You mentioned Mark McCarthy in terms of maybe a guy that has, we saw him 9 years ago now being a terrific minor. I think Andrew Ryan and Tenwivara definitely maybe is one that, even though he's probably hitting 29, 30, is he maybe an inside back that maybe could think maybe I wouldn't say he's a late bloomer. He's had his injury problems, but look, he looks very, very powerful, well built defender. He knows how to defend. Maybe the half yard of pace, maybe the inter-county level could be questioned, but you couldn't hold him back in terms of mental toughness. And I just think he's maybe one that maybe you think, okay, he's not one of the younger brigade, but maybe could he offer something? Maybe he's seen a lot in terms of experience. You think, God, is it that he's definitely one of those late bloomer categories, likes of who was it, Paddy Fitzpatrick and Clare this year that came in very, very late and was effective.
Do you know who I think of when I think of Andrew Ryan? He reminds me a little bit of Bill O'Carroll, who plays in the back line for Kilmacud Crokes. And he got, he's been on the Crokes team for, it's over 10, maybe 11 years at this stage. And he burst into the Dublin team only a couple of years ago. So again, you're looking at probably latter stages of 20 of his 20s. And a bit like Andrew Ryan, it's no harm to have a player with a bit of ignorance in there. And I think everyone knows that's meant as a positive. I know you didn't see the South against West, so it's hard to talk too much about that. But just on the mid side of things, like Gavin Ryan is always a stylish hurler. He was named at number 6 for the mid. And Max Hackett is like Cathal Barrett playing midfield beside him. I presume we'll see him in the backs because it's not like Tipperary have too many obvious experienced cornerbacks at the moment. But what about Max Hackett, Gavin Ryan? Anyone else stand out?
I think I'd be surprised. I think Max Hackett should be in there because, like, he's had a very, very good campaign for the Tip under 20s this year. Look, he's definitely an upside. I think there was definitely a few puck outs from Rhys Shelley. And he's been long. I haven't seen enough of Rhys Shelley over the years to say. I know he's been a very, very good keeper, but I've been told his puck outs have improved a lot. God, he definitely pinged a few puck outs the other day to think, oh, this guy has a bit of moxie. He's definitely prepared to stick his foot in the ground and maybe take a risky pass. And look, sometimes they mightn't come off, but he was definitely drilling balls into the guy's hands. I could probably, if they had probably had a stronger head around him, maybe you could see more guys maybe being more effective. Like Dara Wood scored 10 points from frees. I would have seen him in the relegation final against Ross Gray. He scored. I think somebody like that who's a heavy scorer, would he contribute? We could put him in around better players. How well would he go? Excuse me. So apart from that, I suppose it was difficult for the mid because they were short-handed. And say if they had a Conor Bowe or a Garrod O'Connor or even Kieran Connolly, guys there that could have flitted in and maybe improved the standard around them, and maybe would have helped maybe the likes of Gavin Ryan and a few more to show up a little better. But look, I don't think it will have held them back an awful lot, because look, Colin Bonner and Johnny Enright and Co and Dick, Tommy and Paul would have been looking at all these club games, and they know what they did. They wouldn't have marked down too many players through the Miller Shield. I think they were probably looking for verification in the Miller Shield, maybe in a couple of guys, and it sounds to me like maybe they've got it.
Okay, so then can you talk to me about the Tim Floyd had a report, obviously Tipperary GAA secretary. Was there anything from that caught your attention?
Yeah, look, I think these secretaries' reports they're always interesting, and I see that his compatriot John Costello has he definitely kept a few things close to his chest there that he got out. Whether you'd agree with some, but not of the others. I always think Tim's reports are very measured. Unlike John Costello, who likes to use it as a way to respond to maybe things that are said during the year, I think Tim likes to use it as a way to, I suppose, just to explore new avenues, and no more than maybe, I suppose, we were crying out for maybe Tipperary to maybe look at their underage coaching, and look, it sounds to me like they've got that in hand now with the link up with Setanta, and I suppose that we hadn't heard anything about an S&C coach for the senior hurlers is partly because it's effectively all our inter-county underage S&C at hurling and football will be done by Setanta now, so it will be Des Ryan leading it up, but they'll be getting the best of the best in there. Like Setanta have taken over the part of the Sarsfield Social Centre beside Semple Stadium with a gym area, so they'll be working out of there. They'll be working out of the handball alley in Semple Stadium. So look, that our underage players and our senior players are going to be getting the best of the best. So look, it's great that there's a permanent link, I think, between Setanta and Tipperary, and that there's going to be a continuation. Like if a guy moves from under 15 to under 17, his scores will have been kept in S&C. Like there's going to be information, there's going to be dialogue between coaches, and like if an S&C coach within Setanta might continue on from 15 to 17 to maybe under 20, so like that's going to be you would think that's going to be the likely how it's going to work, and then you have like to Des Ryan, Liam Hennessy overseeing this thing, which is going to be huge for Tipperary.
Yeah, and you see the likes, or you see Tipperary commercial advisor Liam O'Shea talking about full-time director of hurling and commercial director, and he's talking about Tipperary GAA TV, and and so on and so forth. And we know there's no jersey sponsor been named just at the moment. And
I think I wouldn't be surprised if we'll know something before Christmas there. So
like Tipner earned over, this is in the Examiner, over, I think I reported in the Examiner, maybe it was elsewhere in Tipperary, but earned over 90 grand from streaming in 2021. Over 40,000 of that coming from the €120 season tickets. So to talk of that Tipperary GAA TV, which is a very difficult thing, and like I've done a bit with Dublin GAA TV as well, and you can have a nice few people on the ground, and still, there's a huge amount of expense in making sure that works. And then the talk of, he mentioned, I think, the sponsorship of Tipperary being undervalued, that Tipperary can nearly up that to the next level. And I mean, those two things mightn't be mutually exclusive. Getting in a potential sponsor who can maybe cover some of the costs, because I'm not sure would some people balk at the 120 for a yearly subscription. So that there's a load of things to weigh up there. But TV isn't as easy as it sounds now, by the way.
It is, yeah. And I know people. I knew you were throwing it out last weekend. You'd love to see a GAA Red Zone for all the club matches. Like, but I always think TG Carr gets great credit, but then RT get hammered a lot of the time. Why don't they show more? But like, there's only so many hours in the day you can show things, and while we think it's okay, you put it on screen, but you need boots on the ground with cameramen and commentators, and that all costs money. And like, if Tip went down the Tip GAA TV route, you need nearly somebody full time in terms of camera, or maybe a journalist working out of that. Like that's two probably salaries, or then you have, maybe if you want to do more matches of a weekend, you gotta pay the camera operators and maybe a commentator to come in there too. So like, I think it's something that it can be teased out, but like it's something that would need a decent bit of funding, and in terms of equipment and people on the ground. And like, I think of interest of what Liam O'Shea, Liam O'Shea's report in as part of Tim Floyd's report is how I would have thought if Liam is the commercial advisor, I'm sure Liam was probably heavily involved in Tip securing a new sponsor over the last 3 months, and it'll be interesting to see how much of what Liam was saying of Tip's brand being undervalued previously. Who will the new sponsor be, and what would you spondulics are they putting forward in terms of the next sponsorship going forward? I can't remember what Teneo were given. Was it 250 a year? So you'd like to think maybe will the new sponsor be going over and above that, and will we be getting on a par of what AIG are giving Dublin or what Glanbia are giving Kenny?
Over 5 years, it was something like 4 million, and
I mean that's 800 grand a year.
Yeah, and if you think of all the different things that Dublin GAA has sponsors for, and I'm just flicking onto the site here to look, and you have like Ballygunner, Elvery's, Mitsubishi, Energize, Kinetica, Go Ahead. I mean, there's huge opportunities for Tipperary because it is such a traditional brand. And like, put it this way, is the appetite to watch Tipperary? Obviously, within Tipperary, everyone loves watching Tipperary and supporting the teams.
Maybe.
No, let me just ask you this one. Why are Tipperary always the headline act on TV? Why are they always the second team that plays on Sunday on TV?
Yeah.
Because RT or whoever putting them on TV know that Tipperary are the biggest draw. So Tipperary should be able to get more than anyone in hurling.
Definitely, and I know was there a motion going before the Cork convention given out that so many of the Cork's hurling matches have been put on Sky over the last few years, and a lot of that is because Tipperary matches have been picked by RTE ahead of Cork matches. And that says something. I think there's a lot of what Liam O'Shea says there, that maybe we don't take advantage. And the Tipperary brand is not just within Ireland. Like, you mentioned Tipperary around the world, they know it's this county in the middle of Ireland that's famous for hurling. And I think there's something in that. Maybe we have to go down the route of maybe we have Tipperary water. Maybe instead of maybe Coca-Cola being maybe Tipperary's drink sponsor, that maybe we split the water end of it and say, oh, Tipperary, do you want to? And if you're going to a press conference that you have Tipperary, you have no more than Ronaldo putting the bottle of Coke to one side, you have the 2 bottles of Tipperary water in front of you, like, and I'm sure they'd love to have it, and it's an international thing. Maybe you get Coolmore and a banner behind you, or Ballydial, like you tap into that. Like, there's so many things you could do to, instead of maybe going one giant sponsor for 300,000, could you get 5 mini sponsors for 400,000 a year, and you do something like that? Like, it'll be interesting. I know there's a naming rights. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people won't be happy to see something in front of Semple Stadium, but I believe there's going to be something done with naming rights to Semple Stadium in the very, very near future. And I don't think beggars can't be choosers in this game. I'm sure people in Limerick don't like seeing LIT or Toos in front of the Gaelic grounds or UMPC in front of Nolan Park. It's just the area where we're in. If you had super value Semple Stadium, I'm not saying it is super value. I don't think it is. I'm just throwing it in the front.
Well, we'll put it this way: 300 grand going into the pockets of Limerick GAA over the next 10 years because TUS is in front of the name. Do you know, it's not bad to have 300 grand, is it? And
like, what's to stop Tipperary going to Toos and say, if you're sponsoring the Gaelic grounds, why can't you sponsor us? Like, it seems to be the reason LIT and the other colleges have merged together is because as a university brand they can access more money. So can Toos pony up 300,000 for 5 years to stick in front of Semple Stadium? Maybe they could.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, the final thing we're going to talk about is the All-Stars, and they're going to be announced this week. We know the nominations for Tipperary are Cathal Barrett, Rona Maher and Jason Ford. But look, if we're going to call a spade here, this team is going to be absolutely dominated by Limerick. Yeah.
If it was a I would say a non-dominated team by 1 year, you would think Jason Ford probably would have every chance. But it's just, I think it's been an all-star team. It's going to be decided of which Limerick player doesn't make it, and it's just been so dominant. Like any other year, you'd say Cathal Barrett or Jason Ford would have to go very, very close. But like, does Cathal Barrett hold out Sean Finn? No. does he hold out? Who's the other cornerback going to be?
Probably someone like Barry Nash or something.
Barry
like
Nash. One of the Kenny cornerbacks, Connor Fogarty. No, Connor Brown. No. I know. It's and the Jason Ford in the half forward line. You have Garrod Hegarty's going to get in. You have Keane Lynch is going to get in. You're probably Tom Morrissey going to get in. So, and you have Aaron Gallan. As I said, it's probably going to be a case of which 4 or 5 Limerick players don't make the team.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they break the record too and get the most. But yeah, good seasons for those 3 players: Barrett, Ronan Maher, and Ford. So,
yeah, and I just think now they're in the split season, and I think the All Stars have been. I know they were postponed. I think there's definitely a case of maybe doing the All Stars in September, October going forward, because like the inter-county season for me has been so far removed. I was half tempted to pick an All-Star 15, but now I've sort of half forgotten what went on in the last hurling campaign. Like I nearly feel sorry for the All-Star selectors, but it's like eating bread a suit forgotten. Like could that be the reason maybe why some Limerick players might get left out, because it's the immediacy of it? You're picking the All-Star or the Sunday game team of the year. I think the 10 or 11 Limerick players make that selection. That maybe the further away it goes from it, that maybe 1 or 2 Limerick players get left out, and maybe that could lead to maybe a pure All-Star team, because there'll be a broader assessment of the whole year rather than be the immediacy of what maybe Limerick did in All-Ireland semi-final or final.
Okay, well look, hopefully, I mean, we're kind of hoping against hope that some Tip get an All-Star there. Probably won't happen. It'll be largely Limerick, and maybe some of the finalists and semi-finalists will get in there too. I think we've it all said for the show today. Shane, we'll be back again next week. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Yeah, so I suppose to the reviewers, like I think probably next week will be our final show pre-Christmas. Like, so I suppose win or lose, Loughmore will be there'll be no game the 19th. We'll probably look ahead to maybe Ballina, but like after that, I suppose we'll get to put the hurleys down for a while and eat a bit of turkey and stuff like that. So.
Right, good stuff, Shane. Chat to you again
soon. Next week.
Welcome to Tippcast by the Nina Guardian.